All right, I'm going to try to knock out 20 more pages in this February the 19th, 2011 transcript. I always say at the beginning, if I say $300,000 whore, that's Olson. If I say Olson, that's $300,000 whore. When it uses the name speaker number, I have no idea who that is. I don't know why they chose to call it speaker number. I don't know. Anyway, speaker number, either that or get somebody to walk around and stuff it in all theirs while they're inaudible, because most papers inaudible, I mean, it's $200. It's the cheapest advertisement. Miss Vernon, yeah, whatever you call it, speaker number. That freaking newspaper is a joke, but Mr. Thessing, yeah, that freaking nickel would be the way to do it. Miss Vernon, yeah, Mr. Thessing, and if it would actually, speaker number, put it in. Mr. Thesson, and if they read it, they'd go, whoa, and you'd put that in there, you say, whoa, Mr. Cox. But here's the thing about that, Mr. Thesson, what? Mr. Cox, we've been laying it out. I think that what we're up against is that people want to be liked. Speaker number, $300,000 whore. Most of them do. Mr. Cox, they want Miss Vernon, yeah. Mr. Cox, to be liked. Mr. Thessing, you got to start though. Mr. Cox, oh, I know. Lord knows you don't got to tell me, man. Mr. Thessing, this one part, Mr. Cox, Mr. Thesson, you got to start on this next. Mr. Cox, have I been the oracle for 3 years in this town? Mr. Thessing, breaking trail. Mr. Cox, yeah. Mr. Thesson, so now we've got to do this, got to start on this because the people it said speaker number inaudible. Miss Vernon, Mr. Thesson, verifiable, flowchart, and that's the thing. Miss Vernon, yeah. Mr. Thessing, people are going to go as soon as they realize what an absolute, even the phone time in the jail. Mr. Cox, yes, all of that. Then you do the $3 a minute or something to call out of jail goes to the value of that bond. Mr. Thesson, yeah. Mr. Cox, and that's why those bonds, those case numbers are so attractive to the stock market. Mr. Thesson, Mr. Cox, because they write that case number, say, hey, by me, we've got some sucker by the balls and we're going to nick him at them at every turn and you're going to get a high return. And so they buy it. Miss Vernon, try and get speaker number. Yeah, speakers, inaudible speaker number. And that's exactly what they inaudible. Mr. Cox, yeah, Miss Vernon. 115,000. Speaker number, yeah. Miss Vernon, falsely. Speaker number, 500,000, 15. Miss Vernon, yeah. Mr. Thessing, okay. Miss Vernon, yeah. Mr. Cox, it's like, arg, we're bleeding some poor scallywags dry. Would you like to invest? Mr. Olson, $300,000 whore, yeah. Mr. Cox, Miss Vernon, then. Mr. Cox, so. Miss Vernon, inaudible, 500,000. Mr. Cox, so that's the system. Miss Vernon, wake up, $300,000 whore, yeah. Mr. Cox, we can play it. You got guys like Michael Dukes, don't want to believe it. You got guys like Steve Flores, who's just a dumb jarhead, Mr. Thesson, put it in a flowchart. Mr. Cox, they don't want to. The first time that I went in there and broke it down for Jacob Barr phonetic. You guys were all there. I laid it all out there. Here's the evidence. Here's the denial. Inaudible, man. You guys duty to correct me if I'm wrong, because this is some pretty serious stuff that's going to result in me defying you. And if I'm going to come in here and bother me, I'm not going to battle anybody from this information, so you need to protect me from making a big mistake here. You got a duty. Mr. Thesson, you've got the best knowledge of this flowchart you just laid out. Mr. Cox, but you just walk out. Mr. Thesson, so go ahead and print it on paper and fill just while you're sitting here, Mr. Cox, okay. Mr. Thesson, make it out like this and just make a masterpiece. Just make it inaudible. Speaker number. I think that we, Mr. Thessing, as you can, speaker number, can do too. That will help. We'll have a flowchart. But before that, where they have falsely, all the evidence is they have falsely gone after you. Because if people can go, holy cow, look at it, they have They have just lied and cheated and done everything falsely out of it, and then when they're looking at this, then they're looking at it with more of an open mind. Mr. Thesson, speaker number. They're looking at it, wow, look how they just tried to railroad Schaeffer, okay, and they can see the evidences because everybody is just believing whatever they hear in News Minor. And Miss Vernon, $300,000 whore, yeah. Speaker number. And you know, Michael Duke's show and the $300,000 whore, they need to have an alternative. Miss Vernon, and they have been for a long time. Speaker number, yeah. Miss Vernon, inaudible. Speaker number. And if you can just say, why are they railroading him? Let us show you why, and then lay that out. Mr. Cox, because I'm talking about it and showing Mr. Thesson, Mr. Cox, this stuff, yeah. Mr. Thesson, it's just imagine tens of thousands at Fairbanks. It's Sunday morning. They finally got a day off. And they're sitting there drinking their coffee, and they see this flow chart, and they start looking at it because it has a dollar bill signs on it. And they go, oh, wait a minute here. This I can understand. All I got to do is follow the money. Miss Vernon, Mr. Thesson, I know how to do that. Mr. Cox, that's a brilliant name of it. Follow the money. Speaker number, yeah. Mr. Cox, because people also say that with a glared look. It's like a little glared axiom, you know. Speaker number, yeah. Miss Vernon, that's true. Mr. Cox, follow the money, follow the money. Maybe it's, I know, but see, they say it, but they won't do it. $300,000 whore, hold my bonds. Mr. Cox, whoa, he scared me. One too many a revolution. Where's the money, you know? Miss Vernon, but they have a picture, a flow chart. They'll look at a picture. People won't read. You can give them 2 pages to read, they won't read it. But if you give them pictures, even a flow chart looks, speaker number, inaudible. Miss Vernon, so even though it's got words, speaker number, yeah, it has to be basic. Miss Vernon, they will follow it, and maybe, speaker number, Mr. Cox, how about, where's Waldo, just where's the inaudible? Speaker number, how about Mr. Cox, inaudible? Mr. Thesson, everybody knows the Monopoly board, right? Everybody has played Monopoly. You could have the, Mr. Cox, how about Chutes and Ladders? Mr. Thesson, the guy that's in jail, go to jail, he's just sitting there like this, you know, holding on to the bars. Miss Vernon, yeah. Mr. Thesson, yeah, that could be the guy at the bottom. After all, you start up here, Park Avenue. Miss Vernon, yeah. Speakers, inaudible. Mr. Thesson, inaudible. Go to jail for another inaudible. Yeah, if you do the Monopoly board, speaker number, it's familiar. People will. Mr. Thesson, they'll see, yeah, at least a jail, but oh, it's cute. It's Monopoly board. Let's follow this. Speakers, inaudible. Mr. Thesson, let's play the Schaeffer goes to jail game. Miss Vernon, inaudible. Mr. Cox, without extensive. Mr. Thesson, okay, oh yeah. And the guy, well, God forbid he should have Schaeffer's hat on. Mr. Cox, have you seen the cartoon of me and the $300,000 whore in that Esther? Mr. Cox, in Esther. $300,000 whore. Paper, I seen that, yeah. Mr. Thesson, what's it of? $300,000 whore. It's just... Mr. Cox, it's just got a picture of me and it's like, or self-appointed defender of the inaudible, and I'm going inaudible. Mr. Olson, yeah. Mr. Thesson, was it good art? Crappy? Mr. Cox, no, just a character. Miss $300,000 whore, yeah, it was just a cartoon. Mr. Cox, inaudible. $300,000 whore, they're handing those out in IACC. Mr. Cox, the character? $300,000 whore, well, the speaker, inaudible. $300,000 whore. News of Esther Republic, yeah, because when I went in there that day to drop the paperwork off too, speaker number, yeah, Mr. Olson. Don gave me a copy. Oh, look at this, and he had a whole stack of them there. Mr. Thesson, yeah. Mr. Cox, okay, well, I guess not against the flowchart. Mr. Thesson, it's truly a Monopoly flowchart. Speaker number, Mr. Cox, anything else inaudible to Marty a lot? Lately we've been sitting down and sharing our thoughts, and I want to tell you guys all about that, but I want to see if there's anything else anybody's got or forgot to add to put in before just as far as addressing where we're at. Mr. Thesson, I got to get that truck back by 10 though. I got a brand new Nissan Maxima out there, truck. It's not mine. Speaker number, running out here right now. Mr. Thesson, no, not running. Speaker number, oh. Mr. Thesson, I couldn't, only looks like 12 miles a gallon average. $300,000 whore. Really? That's all? Mr. Thesson, inaudible, yeah, but it doesn't have inaudible. They didn't make them for anything but towing. I got to get it back 10 o'clock. Mr. Cox, okay, well, I can put together a flow chart, but when I put it all, I'll have to do, okay, here's what I do. Okay, Alaska court system is way worse than the other ones down in the lower 48, because the ones down in the lower 48, most of them are legitimate judiciary, and they are just dipping Inaudible into this honeypot of bonded case numbers, all right? But statehood, or a bunch of Chicago lawyers writing it up, they don't even get Inaudible legitimate judiciary. They're just backstroking in the honeypot. That's all they do. All right, so we've got a unique situation here. Like, you'll notice, except I could show you the Alaska statute, the seal of the judiciary shall be affixed to all process. That order ranking, the forbidding of the Constitution, and didn't have any seal anywhere on it. Miss Vernon, none of their stuff does. $300,000 whore, no. Mr. Cox, none of it does. Miss Vernon, none of the paperwork we got. Mr. Cox, in fact, the reporter asked her, Miss Vernon, yeah. Mr. Cox, to fax that Inaudible because they have the seal on it. And she's like, Miss Vernon, I said no. Mr. Cox, no, that's what we're mad about, you know. Miss Vernon, it doesn't have a seal on it. Miss $300,000 whore, no. Mr. Cox, it's because it's not $300,000 whore. None of them. None of them. Mr. Cox, from the government, it's from the judiciaries. Miss Vernon, that's right. Mr. Cox, and there's nothing wrong with them running a business. And there's nothing wrong with them running a business, rounding up customers at gunpoint. Speaker number, yeah, that's what's wrong. But as long as they keep their business model to where they only abusing the minority of the population, or a small enough minority of the population, and the guys like Randy want to believe a lie, people want to be lied to. Tim Schlomberg, he knows the truth and might even have a conscience in there, but he wants to. Speaker number, he's going to get his pension. Mr. Cox, yeah. Speaker number, Inaudible. Mr. Cox, he wants to be lied to. Speaker number, Inaudible, get a pension. Mr. Cox, he's crossing his fingers, plugging his ears, and praying to God that the lie will hold out long enough for him to. Speaker number, Inaudible. Miss Vernon, he's praying to Satan. Speaker number, all their pensions are going to go away, and they're all going to and the banks are going to take over the world, and you'll have nothing. No account will give them nothing. The whole thing is going to group into one. You'll get 6 cents on the dollar if you have a dollar. You'll have to give up all your gold and silver because they're going to take that away from everybody. That's the next plan. That's where it's headed. Mr. Cox, well, speaker number, that's where it's headed. Miss Vernon, and then Inaudible got it because Inaudible. Speaker number, and if anyone bought it and put their name on a piece of paper, oh, this is certified. Certified who, what? Just put it in your pocket or get a piece of paper with your name on it. Oh, geez. They got so much. Where's it at? Give it up. They own it because it's government property. Mr. Cox, well, there's a way to that seems right. Well, there's a way to that seems right to man, but Inaudible. Speaker number, well, I mean, that's what they say, and speaker number, Inaudible government property. Mr. Cox, and you know, acceptable to build a house, they labor in vain to build it, but and speaker number, yeah. Mr. Cox, we've got to have faith and we've got to have rules, and that God's not going to let this stuff go unchecked. No, Inaudible. Make him look like. Miss Vernon, he'll let it go unchecked as long as people don't wake the heck up. Speaker number, I know, yeah. Miss Vernon, and realize it's because he'll let them create their own demise because, Mr. Cox, which is a perfect, Miss Vernon, they are, Mr. Cox, segue of what Marty and I have been talking about. Now, guys, I wish Les was here, but he's not, and I want to be. I love you all, and I thought of you guys all just. And the thought of you guys all just makes me cry because in such a dark and horrible time, there's such good man. And that is just encouraging. I just want you to know that it means a lot, Inaudible good man. And I'm glad to know y'all proud to fight alongside you. And the Inaudible that's faithful outshines the Inaudible of a Inaudible. And I don't ever want to disrespect and spit in the face of my God and the people that are faithful to him and his ways by giving up hope and pronouncing defeat. And you guys are just amazing people, and I wish I had my phone. I need Inaudible phone, but Inaudible that. But along those lines, we need to sit down, and you know what? The Bible says nobody sits at the golden tower without first sitting down and counting Inaudible and seeing if you can complete it. And we need to think about that and talk about that now. I think we've done a really good job of putting up a big smoke screen and appearing way bigger than we are. I think that has got them very scared. Another thing the Bible says is the wicked flee when no one is pursuing. You know, like Ron Woods was wetting his pants when you were talking to him. I mean, that's the equivalent of a gunshot. You know, miracle cops show up in our house to ask us questions. I mean, that's on par inaudible with now Mr. Thessing, Mr. Cox, because he's doing wrong and he knows it, and he thinks there's 3,500 of us ready to lynch him. You know, now in reality, I could, on my best day, with some big events happening that showed everybody that how bad and horrible things were, we might be able to muster 50, maybe 50 inaudible. Mr. Thessing, that's one guy that could spill a lot of beans, old Ron Woods. Mr. Cox, 50 to oh yeah, speaker number. Ask him, maybe he needs a little road trip. Mr. Cox, that's why they chose Ted Stevens. Miss Vernon, Mr. Cox, because he had Miss Vernon, he had too big of a bucket of beans. Mr. Olson, speaker number, yeah, or Mr. Cox, and too big of a speaker number, inaudible. Mr. Cox, because they rigged the election, and I don't like Ted. Miss Vernon, Mr. Cox, at all. Mr. Thessing, I don't care for him. Mr. Cox, but the FBI rigged the election, went after him, all this stuff. They ousted him, and then then here he is mad that he got ousted, that they ate their own, and so they audible in his plane, the old Alaska special, and they ruined him so they don't run the risk of talking. Miss Vernon, Mr. Cox, that's another thing that makes these people frustrated, is that they know that they eat their young, so they're scared. But here's the context, though: the wicked, conniving aggression of the tyrants and the decadent complacency of the people are both sins that need to be judged, and that they can't happen apart from each other. They are inaudible, and that we're up against right now is we've got very small, without anything big happening. We're probably looking at it right there. People that would just stand on principle alone. We've got Mr. Vernon. What we need is something. Mr. Cox, we've got 6 people right here. Mr. Vernon, I mean, somebody bringing up something like you heard on the radio yesterday, the bond into Mexico, where somebody sees something up a reefer, where somebody sees somebody open up a reefer and it has bodies of 2 or 3 little kids with their body parts missing, inaudible, and the reefer inaudible are going to Mexico. Then people will arise. It's happening all the time. Mr. Cox, I don't think so. Mr. Vernon, they're grabbing people all the time, little kids and inaudible. $300,000 whore, but people put blinders on. Mr. Vernon, inaudible, and if nobody wakes up, you just take the inaudible. Okay, I'm going to pause here on page 81. They're talking about some pretty deep stuff here.